Welcome to the Course Creators Academy podcast with digital design and course creation expert, Pua Lena. Tune in for strategies on how you can use online courses to grow your business. You'll hear how impact-driven entrepreneurs are using online courses to transform lives. Now, let's get started. Here's your host, Pua Lena.
Welcome to the Course Creators Academy podcast. I am so excited to share today's guest with you. I am chatting with the one and only Megan Nolan. I am just so excited. I'm mostly excited because this has been a long time coming. We've both canceled recently for different reasons. And I just woke up today and I was like, today's the day. I'm going to talk to Megan and it's going to be amazing. So Yay. Megan and I have known each other for a few years now, and I am just thrilled to continue to be in touch. And I would love for you to share with our audience what you do and sort of your path to what you're doing today.
Love it. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Great to be here and so fun to finally chat with you. And so what do I do? Always the question, right? So I am super passionate about helping other driven, high achieving women to overcome back pain so that they can show up fully in their lives and their work and feel energized, focused, clear, inspired, all the goodness that comes from when we feel good. And so as a vitality coach, I've been doing the work that I do for almost 17 years. And I believe that the tool set of yoga is foundational for us to thrive. And it's such a joy and honor to share these tools with people in so many different ways, because they are ones that can be used in so many different settings. And, they aren't just trying to twist you into like a Cirque du Soleil pretzel. In fact, that's really not what it's all about. So it's really been a fun journey for me to share these tools with people and help them really put them to use and experience their magic.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I, as a female entrepreneur who has recently had a back injury, I am extra excited to chat with you. And it's such a odd and debilitating experience. And also a lot of people have no idea what's going on. Like specialists, doctors, they're all just sort of like, okay, well, does it hurt when you do this or that? And it almost feels like everyone's just guessing. But a lot of times there's very little, at least in my experience, try this, see if this helps, change out your shoes, change your mattress, and there's like no real, how do we get to the root of the injury, or how do we facilitate healing while being able to carry on with our lives, right? And I know that in the past, you've helped people who may be sitting a lot of the day and sort of navigating the discomfort of just sitting. And now that I am hearing that you're also specializing in back pain, I'm really curious. How did you decide on this focus? And sort of, did you navigate these challenges, or what brought you to this?
Absolutely. I have definitely navigated all of the above. And yes, so originally, when we started working together, which was, I believe, like 3.5 years ago, I was focused on my first online program, which is called Yoga at My Desk, because I was doing in-person workplace wellness programs and services here on Maui. And I was recognizing that people needed tools in between our in-person sessions, right? Because remember back in the day when we would join together in groups, all that stuff. And so I created Yoga at My Desk with the idea of teaching people and giving people the tools to take a 10-minute yoga break. I soon realized that in their mind, they didn't think that they had 10 minutes to spare. So I broke it down and I made 2-minute breaks, and then I made 1-minute breaks. And then I taught them how to take 3 deep breaths, because the reality is our life is so busy and we have so many demands on our attention, on our time, and on our body. And when we are just pushing, go, 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 we can get to the point when your body says, nope, not doing that anymore. And then it'll stop you in your tracks with pain. So the idea is to get ahead of that and to get into habits that nurture and nourish your body and with yoga, you're also nourishing your mind and your spirit simultaneously, which is awesome, because talk about ROI and like multitasking, then you keep your body strong and healthy and vibrant, so that if and when, hopefully it doesn't, if and when something happens, you rebound more quickly, because you already have that foundational strength and mobility. But when things happen like they do, and I'm sorry that that's happened for you, it is, to be honest with you, it is sometimes kind of a guessing game. And each of us is sort of a unique puzzle based on the way that you've moved your whole life and your postural patterns and what you do all day and like how you hold your phone and whatever it is. And so it is a bit of a mystery when something happens. And so the cool thing is that, we can always sort of look at like, okay, here's the ideal alignment of the body. And like, if you're spending a lot of time in this position, it'll probably show up with these certain problems or symptoms, which is kind of what led me to creating what I call the sitter's syndrome, or sleeping booty and the 7 sneaky symptoms. And they are the reality of our life when we work on the computer a lot. And whether you have a standing desk, which is a great tool, but if you're standing in weak posture, then that can have a whole other host of issues. And we can be told like, oh, you should stretch this, and maybe you do some ab exercises. But if you're not balancing that out, or if you're actually only like worsening the problem, then, it can be a slippery slope to more problems. So it's sort of all woven together, because when I started, ironically, working online with yoga at my desk, I was like, holy heck, like, I don't know how people are doing this, because my body does not like this. Like, I was personal training and teaching yoga. I barely sat in a chair, longest time would be like when I was driving somewhere or on an airplane. And so my body was really quick to complain about it. And I was like, okay, I really got to get these tools out to people, because this is no joke. This sitting thing is no joke. And so it's been an interesting journey, because I too have had back pain and issues and experiences that like really have been debilitating. And so if we can get ahead of that by any means is ideal.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Okay. So break this down for me, because after hearing you talk, I'm like, okay, well, I can sit, but I shouldn't sit with bad posture, but I shouldn't sit for too long. And I can also stand, but I can't stay. If I'm standing badly, it's as bad as sitting. And I'm like, what do I do?
I know. I'm sorry.
No, I think it's so great, because this is something like our audience is in front of a computer and for long periods of time. I mean, I do it. It's because the nature of an online business, the nature of being a course creator, and also the nature of really falling in love with what you do and not being able to pull yourself away leads to several hours at a desk, even if we don't mean to. And it's, instead of what I love so much about what you do and how you teach is you really remove the guilt and you remove the judgment, and you're just like, you know what, this is life right now. And here are a few things that you can do to practice a little bit of self-care and help you to live better and easier and more joyfully and with less pain. So I'm curious if somebody's just hearing about this for the first time and sort of feeling uncomfortable and wanting to implement a couple of small adjustments, what those might be.
Well, I would say that first and foremost, having an empowering morning routine is the jam. It really is so important, because let's be honest, we can have the best of intentions that I'll do it later. And later is like 2023 by the time you actually get to it, right? Not like later on today, but so doing it first is always really helpful for a variety of reasons. One, I'll start with the one that's probably going to be like the heaviest hitter, is that when we move and exercise our body in the morning, of course, you're also energizing your brain. So exercise in the morning is shown to increase productivity by upwards of 72%. So let's just start there. That in and of itself, right? Because we're like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to exercise. Well, when you exercise your body, you're oxygenating your whole body, which obviously includes your thinking machine, which is what you need to be out there creating your beautiful designs or creating your content or showing up live on Facebook, going to a Zoom meeting, whatever. So having an empowering morning routine is a really powerful way to start that. And what do I mean by empowering? Well, because you can look at it as if you do something that makes your body feel strong and energized, that also activates that energy within you. So you're like, yeah, I feel good. I'm ready to go. That gives that same energy to your heart, not just your physical, like actual ticker, but your emotional heart. And then that inspires your brain because, going back to the blood flow, but also your heart and your mind are in constant communication with each other. So why is that important? Well, if you go and you sit in that sort of weak posture, AKA ouchy slouchy posture all day long because it hurts.
The
right?
best name.
Thank you. If you go and you sit in that posture all day long, not only does it make you feel like you're totally exhausted and you're in a body twice your age and you have to like groan to stand up out of your desk chair, it sends signals back to your brain, right? We all know what it looks like when somebody's really sad. Or they're tired and they're just like, oh, I can't do this anymore. There's a slumping of the shoulders. There's a dropping of the heart. There's a forward moving of the head. What do you think it looks like when you're on your computer all day long? It's that exact same posture. So it causes this ripple effect up into your hormones. It causes more stress because you're breathing really short and shallow breaths, which triggers stress. So having a morning routine that energizes your core muscles, specifically the ones that hold you in the strong posture, then it not only energizes your body, but it moves you into that strong posture. So it's more like an alert when you get into that weak posture later on. Your body's like, oh, hello, this hurts. And so use pain or use negative emotion as a signal. It's like kind of putting your hand on a hot stove of like, oh, this hurts. Okay, well, I shouldn't just like power through another hour. I should get up and I should stand up, do a little wiggle, have a yoga break, go to the bathroom, walk the dog, whatever it is, because not only is it good for your body, but your brain really likes to take a break. And remember when you were a little one, they made you go out to play. They made you go out and move your body, not only because the teachers needed a break, but actually is so beneficial for your brain because your brain really only does well till about the 45-minute mark. And then that's when you find yourself like, oh, I wonder what's happening over there. Maybe I should make a reel. That'd probably be a good time to make a reel. And it's like, no, that's your brain's way of being like, hey, psst, why don't we just stand up for a bit? So there was a bunch in there, but I would say like my gold star standard would be to have a morning routine that lights you up and helps you to start the day that way.
That's awesome. I think we should do the week that this podcast releases, we should do like a 7-day challenge and just everybody holds each other accountable in the group and we'll just do some morning movement together. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah, I'm down. That sounds like a great idea.
Let's do that. I love it. It's so true. I used to get up at like 4 a.m. and work out first thing every morning. So much so that it was when I stopped doing that and I sort of shifted to an afternoon workout, I was like just craving a little bit of a change. But I noticed a negative impact in my productivity in the morning, like pretty drastically. And it was probably several years before I started working out in the morning again. I think I was just traumatized by years and years of doing that and teaching early morning classes. And I just freed myself from it. And then I was just like, no more of that. Yeah, totally. And so when I went back to it, I was like, I start work earlier. I'm getting more done. I feel like clearer in the mind. And it was just, it couldn't have been coincidence,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's science behind it.
That's awesome.
And I love that you felt and you saw the benefits, right? Because it's really easy to talk ourselves out of things if we don't like really feel it. We're like, yeah, that sounds good. She said it was good for me. I'll try it. But if you can start to see the ripple effects in your life and feel it in your body, then you're more likely to continue the habit. So yes, I'm totally with you though. It's like, you don't want to get up really early, but with the morning routine, it's whatever you have time for, And so I teach people to be okay with a couple minutes, and you can do like some energizing movements or just some deep breaths, whatever it is, like 2 minutes. If that's all you got, use it, fill it up with the whole, like that whole 2 minutes intentionally, right? Because that's using your ability to decide and choose what you want to focus on, choose how you want to show up so that you can make the most of whatever time. So if you have 2 minutes, awesome. If you have 30 minutes or 15 minutes, awesome. Whatever it is, it counts, right? And so that's really important to not like talk ourselves out of doing it if we don't have an hour or whatever we think is like, the minimum of what is actually going to do anything. It's really whatever you're going to do most consistently is what's going to help you and have payoff.
Completely. I love that. It's so approachable. And I think it's one of those things that we're like, yeah, I've heard that before. Like everybody says that. Okay. Yes. Everybody says it for a reason. Right. Yeah. And it's that, like, just try it, commit to doing it tomorrow, see how you feel. Cause it's one of those things, even for me, like if I, miss a couple of days, you tend to almost lose what that feels like and just settle back into an old routine pretty easily. So it's so important to just give it a try. And one of my favorite things, like favorite movement strategies, is a Tabata, because it's 4 minutes. It's literally 4 minutes, but you feel like you've worked out for an hour.
Yeah.
You just jumping jacks, mountain climbers, squats with your body weight, and 20 minutes, do the exercise, 10 minutes, rest. 8 times.
20 seconds.
20 seconds. Holy moly. Did I say minutes? Don't do that.
No. Now you're going to scare people.
You're like 4 hours later. Oh my God.
You're like, wait, I thought you said 4 minutes.
Holy smokes. 20 seconds. 20 seconds. Yes. Totally. Yeah. I was going to ask. So as a course creator, when you are putting content together and you seeing, like, I love to just chat because I know you walk your talk, and I really love to just highlight amazing entrepreneurs who are putting their strategies and their expertise in action. So are there sort of exercises or timers or what strategies do you use when you're creating content to help you be mindful of your body? Or like, let's say you're really into writing a blog post, or you're recording a bunch of content and you're so dialed in that 2 hours could easily go by without you even moving or standing up. You're probably more sensitive to that than most people, but do you have any sort of reminders in place that help you to get up, move around, stretch?
I typically don't sit. So I sit on podcasts because I'm like you, I'm a very animated hand talker and I move around a lot. And so I find when I'm on video, if I am standing up when I do that, I'm like, and I'm bouncing all over the place. So typically when I'm working, not that you're doing that, but I was just saying what
I totally do that. And you're totally welcome to stand and get crazy.
Okay. I'm not set up to stand right now, but normally I am. So the thing is that I typically don't sit throughout the workday. And so my deal is that I need to self-implement breaks, because I'm like you, like I'm in the zone and I'm like, oh, it's fine. And like, literally I'm going to pee my pants if I don't go pee, but I can hang on for just like a couple more sentences, if I don't. And I'm just the same. So what I do is, depending on what I'm working on, like depending on the length of what it will be, is I either set a 25-minute or a 45-minute timer. And so I give myself that time. And I find actually, for me, I do better. It depends on, again, like what I'm creating. And even if it's like what I'm hoping to be a longer, like module description or whatever it is, I find I do best when I chunk things down. And I learned recently, it's not directly to my course creation, but it's also, I've used it for this, is an 8-minute window of just like set a timer for 8 minutes. And if you're creating an email or you want to just do the description for a module, just set a really short timer and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this and see what you can come up with. And you might not have the final draft, but you're kind of in that sort of like pressurized situation, if you will. And I find that my brain is like, okay, I got 8 minutes. I'm going to bust this out. And like, you might get halfway and you're like fully in the zone. And you're like, okay, I'll double it. And if the 8-minute goes off and then you're like, okay, I'm so close to being done, and then just double it. But then mandate that when you're done with that time, you have to step away, so that you step away and you come back with fresh eyes, because we have this tendency to just like try to power through, and then we miss stuff and we have typos and whatever it is. And so it's really that, like, you can step away and go and engage on Instagram or whatever. Like just switch gears slightly and come back, because your brain, it likes both repetition and novelty. So it's that like switching gears a little bit, but not too frequently, because then we can talk ourselves into like, I'm totally multitasking right now. I'm like doing 5 different things. And that your brain doesn't like that. It likes to switch between one thing, have some time with it, and then go to something else. But if you're bing bonging back and forth, that actually slows you down. So I would say, to answer your question, it's a timer on my phone. I have to do it. I can have the best intentions of like, I'm only doing half an hour and I'm going to stop. And then it's like you said, it's like an hour later and you're like, oh my God, I really have to pee and I haven't got out of this chair. And I feel like I'm part of it now.
Right. I'm glad. That makes me, that reminds me that you're human. And we all have, like, her body just probably tells her when to stand up. She's so keyed in.
It does. It's like, ow. Right?
I'm like, I'm almost done.
I know. Yeah. Well,
awesome.
Thing, it typically is like your body, it starts with these like sweet little like, hey, that kind of hurts a little bit. That hurts. And then you get a headache. And then it's like, if you keep ignoring it, your hand is like, excuse me, it's really hard for me to like now take the lid off the toothpaste thing because your wrist is so bust up. And it's like, we got to get ahead of that. Like, think of it from a preventative measure. We all know that's like the most powerful way, but you are the magic sauce in your business and your course. And like, when you can show up feeling inspired, strong, confident, clear-headed, all of that, like everything's going to flow a lot more smoothly.
Oh, I love that. I love this advice so much. And again, it's things that we've heard in some capacity, but to hear it from somebody who teaches it and has probably seen the effects of not implementing this, so important, right?
Super important. Yeah. Because like legit, if you stay in that sort of ouchy slouchy posture, that's when we're actually starting to, this isn't necessarily pertaining to course creators, but it is really telling to the impact of what happens to our body when we're on devices. We're starting to see that sort of rounded, sort of humped slouch posture that we associate with elderly, the elderly people, because they're in that sort of slouched position. And that's from a lack of proactive strengthening and stretching. We're starting to see that postural pattern in children under 10.
Oh my God, that's terrifying.
Yeah. And in fact, it's getting so bad that they're calling it the postural deevolution, because we evolved the ability to stand up straight. And we're like, yes, look at, our ancestors, look at me go. I got the shovels. I'm out in the garden. I'm hunting and gathering. And now our main tool is what? These. And it's like, 100%. It's like you're slouched over something. And if we don't integrate movement and you're not intentional about it, we're starting to see that like, we're slouching back in on ourselves.
10 years old. That's scary.
Mm-hmm.
So when we are taking a break then, and this sounds like it can be implemented from working online to like kids doing homework or schoolwork, or even if, like, I would go so far as to say, if you're sitting and scrolling on Facebook for 45 minutes, it's probably time to get up, And so when you are taking those breaks, or when you're guiding your clients on this sort of interval training of the mind and body, what activities or lack thereof during the breaks do you recommend?
One thing that's really important is work with your eyes, because a lot of the fatigue that we feel comes from visual fatigue, because our bodies are not used to looking at something at such a close range for such extended periods of time. And that's, typically why we tend to kind of gravitate into that rounded position, because our eyes are getting tired. So they're like, well, I must get closer and closer in order to see. And so that's why your head is like jabbing forward in the shoulders and the whole ripple effect. And so something super easy is, if you're in a climate that allows you to go outside, then, that has a whole host of benefits. Even, if it's not going to freeze your little tootsies, take your shoes off and go outside and put your feet on the ground. And either, if that's not something you can do in the moment, then look as far away as you can see. Because what you're doing there, and you can just even try it right now. Like if you turn your head and you look out as far as you can see, if you can see out a window, you want to look to the farthest away cloud, or like if you're in a room, look at something that's as far away as possible. Because what you're doing there is you are inviting your eyes to widen and take in more information, which is, it's good for the health of your eyes, but also good for the health of your brain. It actually soothes your nervous system by doing that. So either just closing your eyes or looking out, and then the going outside, the fresh air part is really key. But so if you've been sitting, obviously standing up is really good. And anything that moves you into a more open, powerful posture in your body. So when we like, depending on what feels good in your shoulders, to be able to, if you're sitting, to really sit up super tall, rolling your shoulders back, and then stretching your arms out wide out to the side. Like, for those of you that can't see us, think like Kate Winslet on the Titanic. Remember that scene when she's like, no. So that's sort of like stretch out through the fingers. And if you engage your tummy and you lift the center of your chest, you might even already feel like all the way down your arms to your fingertips. And then you can always stay there. And if it's okay in your neck, if you lift your chest and you look up a little bit more, or if your shoulders don't like that wide position, you can go lower towards the ground. So anything that moves you firstly more upright, and then into that stronger, more confident posture. So another thing that you can do to integrate into your exercises is what I call adult tummy time. So, when you have a baby or a little one, when they're really little, you lay them on their tummy, right? And so then they learn how to lift their head. Well, if you're sitting at a computer or you're working at a desk all day, you're very much in a very embryonic sort of rounded position, right? And so we need to do those too as adults, because we need to keep the curves in your spine strong and healthy as well. So anything that has you laying on your belly and pulling your shoulders back and learning how to lift your head and, squeeze your bum and wake up your sleeping booty a little bit, that's great. So anything like that is really helpful. If you can do that throughout the day, so many of us are working from home, so it wouldn't really be a big deal if you just like went to go cuddle with your dog and laid on the floor and did some tummy climb exercises. Nobody would think it was weird. Your dog would be stoked. And so stuff like that is really good. And even, so here's another thing is that like, if your body is fatiguing, so is your mind. Right. And so if you're like, man, I just gotta get this done, I just really gotta push this. And we tell ourselves like, I can't take a break right now. Like, what are you talking about? I gotta do all this. Blah, blah, blah. And so the thing is like, if you just step away for a minute and you just, whatever, like if you're standing or you're sitting up and you do something that's a cross body movement. So if you lift your left knee and touch it with your right hand and do the other side, and you go side to side, that wakes up the part of your brain that connects the two sides of your brain, so that it just gives your brain a little energy rather than like slugging another whatever. And coffee, I meant.
Or other.
Yeah, or other.
No judgment.
No. Green juice is actually what I was doing.
That's what I was thinking.
So those are some simple ideas that are really not only energizing for your body, but also your mind, right? Your brain.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I'm so excited. If you're listening to this and you do adult tummy time, please post on your Instagram and tag us. That would be amazing.
Yeah, do it.
Like with the dogs in the background. I never thought about that. Even the cross body thing, like it totally makes sense once you explain it, but it's just not something that we think about. They're like, oh, my eyes are feeling a little bit tired. That must just mean that I forgot to put my blue light glasses on or something. It's like, we're much more connected than just that. And to hear just even these little things that we can implement, again, it takes actually doing them. So if we want any accountability, feel free to drop that. We have a Facebook group. Are you in our Facebook group?
I will be after we're done.
Yes, definitely. It's a party. I am trying to nurture it to be a party. Facebook groups are an interesting beast.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, that's super awesome. Thank you for sharing that. What's up, course creators? I hope you enjoyed part 1 of my conversation with Megan Nolan. In part 2, we're going to talk about Megan's experience as a course creator, experience in launches, and some amazing tips that she has for you, for your courses and your launches. See you there.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Course Creators Academy podcast. Join the conversation in the Course Creators Clubhouse on Facebook And if you love this podcast, don't forget to subscribe and share the love with a 5-star review. And tag us on Instagram at pualena.co for a shout out on the next episode. And be sure to visit pualena.com for more info. Thanks again for listening.